Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's session on skills that employers value in the workplace. I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Mumukshu Mohanty, Director of Employer Brand and Recruitment Marketing at Salesforce. Mumukshu is a senior marketing and communication professional with over 20 years of experience in championing technology brands to their target audiences, leading employee engagement, brand communication, leadership communication, change and crisis management for Fortune 500 companies. She has actively worked on diversity, equity, and inclusivity programming with the goal of creating diverse and inclusive workplaces where all kinds of talent can thrive. Prior to Salesforce, Mumukshu led internal communication at Publicis Sapient India, and before that, she led communications for the delivery arm of IBM in its India offices. Mumukshu has an executive MBA from IIM Kolkata and a postgraduate degree in political science with honors from Lady Shri Ram College, Delhi University. Professionally and personally, Mumukshu likes to describe herself as a storyteller, a child lover, and a mother. Creative writing has been a passion since her childhood and has seen expression in several small articles and pieces of fiction published both online as well as in print. She is a published author of English fiction, and her book, The Savior, is available on Amazon Kindle. Currently, she is working on a sequel to the ebook and also on a couple of other writing projects. Before we start, I would like to inform you to ask questions in the Q&A tab. We will address them as we go. Also, in order to help us continue to make our programs better, we request you to please take the short survey at the end of this webinar. Mumukshu, we're glad to have you present at the Online Manipal Plus series. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ujjwal. Thank you very much, everybody who's on this webinar. I see almost 170 odd people on this webinar, and I am so delighted to be able to talk to you about a very pertinent topic, I believe, topic around what skills that employers in the current corporate world actually value, and primary among them, and something which is in my area of interest, is of course interpersonal communication. I think one of the things that I would really like to understand is, when we talk about interpersonal communication, the first thing that comes to mind is more about how we talk, whether we are talking with our friends or our families, whether we are expressing them verbally just with our words or just with our non-verbal cues. But there's a workplace which is now completely physically disconnected. There's a workplace which is remote, and in this workplace your communication skills are going to be very critical. In fact, they will be very critical to how you interact with your colleagues, with your supervisors, or your partners, or other such stakeholders that you will have. So what shall we really focus on in this particular webinar? We will focus on more about how this communication is important to you, why it makes a difference to you. We'll talk a little bit, and I'll be happy to explain to you some of the key tenets about communication, especially in the workplaces. We'll talk a little bit about mindful communication, being inclusive communication. And most importantly, we'll round it off by speaking a little bit around some of the rules of work from home communication, because probably that is where you are headed to when you enter the workforce. Here's a quick question, and I would love to know also any reactions if you wish to share. But why do you think communication is important? What makes it, why is it important for you? Let me get a little speculative here. So you all are in campuses. You will soon have your placements. You will have fairly high-fi jobs after this. And the first thing that you will do after you get a placement or after you achieve a job is you'll probably text somebody. I am aware millennials are pretty high on text. So you'll probably text someone. You will probably go to Instagram. You will probably go to Facebook. You will you'll announce to your entire network on Twitter that you have now gotten a job at so-and-so organization. What you probably won't do, and mind you, what you probably won't do is actually pick up the phone and call somebody or talk to your entire friends and family over the phone. You probably will not write an entire email which is meant for your entire network, telling them about your new achievement. The point, what I'm trying to make is, we might, millennials like you or young professionals like you are probably very savvy with texting, probably very savvy with social media. But do remember, when you step into the workplace, two of the most important formats of communication are going to be phone or a call or a live in-person conversation, and email. So make sure, and this is critical when you step into the workplace, make sure your verbal communication and your written communication is spot on. Make sure that you are able to express yourself. You are able to have those skills that you need in written and verbal form. Of course, I'm not saying all workplaces are going to be only email driven. It depends on the workplace you will get into. You will first need to determine, what's the accepted norm in your workplace. For example, there are workplaces in which the day starts with a typically in tech organizations, the day starts with a scrum meeting in which all team members actually stand up or come together and discuss what is in there for the whole day for them. There are some workplaces in which all the people working in that organization are remote. They are not even meeting each other. So then your only method of collaboration with your colleagues are only going to be email and phone. So whatever type of communication you're using, just make sure that you are participating in the discussion. You're asking questions where it is necessary, and you're providing responses when it's asked, because these responses, these participation is what is going to make you relevant in the workplace. And that's why I kind of have put this right up in the presentation, because I would like for you to take for the next hour at least to understand that communication is the key to your relevance in the workplace. So just trying to summarize a couple of things that which will matter to you in the workplace, especially when you get into these into large organizations, or when you get into an organization which is in this new hybrid scenario, they are remote organizations. There are a couple of things around communication that you need to really keep in mind. The first point, and I'll go through these points that I'm going to be sharing with. Here's a little summary. One, you make sure that you're reflecting the brand that you are representing. Second, and importantly, speak up clearly, speak up with your thoughts, your opinions, speak up so that you can show what makes you different. Listening is one of the key skills of communication at the workplace. And of course, given the kind of organizations you're all headed to, there will be cross-cultural teams. So you will be probably working with cross-cultural teams. So I'll talk a little bit about how you communicate with a cross-cultural team. This is something that I really passionately believe about, think that is important for everybody to keep in mind. Please remember, when you enter a corporate workplace or whichever kind of workplace you are entering, when you are out of your academic environment and you enter into a workforce, you are, you like it or not, reflecting the brand that you are representing. By brand, I mean the organization. Each organization has a brand. So you are like the custodian of that brand. Just a quick question here. Now, when I say you are representing the brand you're reflecting the brand that you are representing, I would love to know if you can think of one person which comes to your mind who is very reflective of the brand that he or she is representing. Any thoughts, any ideas? I, of course, can't see the chat, but if anyone wants to speak up and tell me if there's one name that comes to their mind about a person representing the brand. Anyone would like to share?
Students, you can type it in the chat box or the Q&A. Sundar Pichai is one.
Okay. Sundar Pichai representing
Elon
Google.
Musk, Ratan Tata.
Wonderful. Excellent. These are the names I'm looking at. Yeah, absolutely. Though I would differ on the Sundar Pichai name. But Elon Musk, yes. Ratan Tata, yes.
Bill Gates, Anand Mahindra.
Anand Mahindra is a great example in India. Absolutely. Um, one of the things, and these names are really literally synonymous with the brand. I know many of you probably are not so clued into that generation, but Infosys is almost synonymous with Narayan Murthy, or at least it used to be for some time. The reason being, these people, these CEOs or these leaders of that particular brand, they literally lived the brand. They had the values of the brand, they epitomized the values of the brand, they lived the brand, they spoke the brand's messages at all times. Their lives were a living representation of the brand. Of course, as you working in these organizations, you probably don't want to tweak your entire life to represent the brand, but you should be aware of what your brand stands for. What is your brand story, so that you are able to speak that story in your various interactions outside the organization, whether it's on your social media, whether it's on your LinkedIn platform, whether it is you are speaking to a partner, you are speaking to a client, you are interviewing somebody else for your team. In each of these interactions, you should be able to speak your brand story. And that's important. Why? Because brands are nowadays actually beginning to look for their employees to be the frontline ambassador of the brand. Brands are big. This is actually called frontline branding, or actually it's sometimes also called as below the line branding. But the idea is that every enterprise, whether it is large or it is small, it takes steps to enable its employees and its workforces to represent the brand in a very honest way, in an open and trustworthy way. No one's trying to ask you to fake it. So do speak about the brand that you represent in an open, honest, and truthful manner. And of course, there are so many examples of brands which have had major fiascos or have had major crises because an employee did not represent them appropriately. So it's become critical in today's day and age, actually, and employers are beginning to look at employees representing their brands perfectly. Now that we are talking about brand stories, I would love to do this, and please tell me if I can actually have a little interactive activity with you. But if I were to ask you, what's your brand story? Of course, you're not in a brand right now, but consider your life as a brand. Consider your life as representative of something. And if I were to ask you, tell your story, what would you say? And the activity here is about telling it in 140 characters. 140 characters, typically the amount of character space you have in Twitter. I think they have now increased it to 280. Nevertheless, but speak to me or tell me your story in, let's say, 15 words, 10 to 15 words. Are there any conversations in the chat around this, or would anyone like to chime in?
I think they're going to take some time to type that in the chat box.
I'll give them 30 seconds. 30 seconds is enough to talk about your life, by the way, yeah? Or 1 minute. This is a
okay. Himanshu, my story is I achieved 9 Guinness World Records.
Well, I heard world record, so great job, Himanshu. Anyone else?
Students, you can write in the chat box. Prajal, started with 0 and now I'm doing pretty good. Failures were the stepping stones in my life.
Good job, Prajal. Though that's more than 20 words, you've exceeded. I know I'm insisting on this 140 characters because I would like you to have your story sorted in your mind and be able to express it with brevity. We often don't have the luxury of long spans of time or long stretches of conversation in which you can express your story. How quickly and how crisply are you able to explain your story and have that sorted in mind already.
Sheetal says, the girl who fell hard but never gave up.
Awesome. Good job, Sheetal.
Tanpreet, born and brought up in small town in Calcutta, now loving New Delhi and worked with Amex and ICICI Lombard.
Very good, Manpreet. You guys are doing a great job.
Some
Awesome.
have given one-word responses.
Yeah, let me hear a couple.
Explorer, new.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, because there are a few of them. Honest,
Wonderful.
good team player.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for all those responses. And I love it that at least you have thought of some of this. And now here's a chance maybe tonight, go back and sit and think. I didn't give you much time now, but sit and think. If you were to tell your life story in 10 words, what are the 10 words you will use? Just use that much and keep it ready for the next time somebody asks you this question. That's great. The point I'm trying to make, and again, I'm going to repeat myself there. The point I'm trying to make is there will always be a time in which you have to represent a brand, or that in which you have to convey something very quickly, very crisply, and in a very short duration of time. Be ready for those situations at your workplace, especially if you are in, let's say you are working in a project, or let's say you are leading a product line. Let me create this scenario. And this is a very typical scenario used in corporate spaces. You have just entered an elevator. And you know how elevators are, like everybody enters into the elevator and just stands like this with their nose up in the air, or probably head completely pushed down so that they avoid making eye contact with anybody. So you enter your elevator, and look who's entered the elevator but the CEO of your company, or let's say some leader whom you are trying to make a favorable impression with. So that person also enters the elevator, and you are standing to one side, and he or she is standing to one side, and both of you are just standing quietly. Now imagine there are, let's say, 30 seconds of elevator travel time. Here you have 30 seconds in which you make the pitch of your life. What are you going to say? Do you have that elevator pitch ready with you? What you're seeing on screen right now is a very basic construction of an elevator pitch. You can take this as a template sometime later and just try and see how you write out whether it is a project that you are representing, or a product that you are leading or developing, or what if you're trying to try for your next promotion? Why are you deserving of that next promotion? You want to tell that leader that, you know what, you need to promote me because I can do da 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 da. These are the things I can do. So use this template, but have your elevator pitch ready. Yeah. And I think you will find plenty of templates for elevator pitches, but to me, I found this was the most easy and user-friendly one. Please take what works for you. But the idea being that you ensure that you have all these points included in your elevator pitch, because the elevator pitch is not so much just about pitching yourself, but it's also being of value to the organization in which you're working. So make sure you've got that captured in the elevator pitch. And kind of a quick segue to from elevators to a group setting, I would say. Why is it that that when you get into a group setting, that particular elevator pitch may or may not work? One of the reasons being, of course, that in an elevator pitch, it is a little more, I would say, focused around one particular thing. But in group settings, you are working or you are collaborating with a number of team members. And I think that's what's going to happen to you anyway in your workspace. In fact, there are some studies which say that in your workplace, you are literally going to be spending 1/3 of your entire time only in meetings. I could be wrong with the number. And sometimes as you go higher up in the career, you end up spending 2/3 of your time only in meetings. It's exhausting, trust me. But when you spend literally a quarter of your day entirely in meetings, you better have some tips ready on how you should conduct yourself in your meetings. One of the most important things I think that people, kind of ignore, people kind of forget or overlook is coming prepared to meetings. And I cannot harp enough how important it is, not just to waste because it ends. If you don't come prepared, you're literally wasting your time getting up to speed with everybody. You're wasting the time of people who have come into the meeting. So come prepared, so that you show that respect to those people, that I've come prepared. Here are the points that we need to talk about in the meeting, and I'm not going to waste your time or anybody else's time. And these are the things that we will clear in the meeting, wrap up the meeting on time, so that we can all go and get some work done. The other important thing I definitely want to make in meetings especially is contribute early. I don't know if you've been, for especially people on this call who have already been in workplaces before and who have some experience under their belt. There are situations you would have seen when you go into a meeting, you sit down and then you are thinking, oh, I have something to say about this point, but let me wait for that person to talk. And then, oh, no, let this particular detail get finished, and then I will chime in with my opinion. There is no waiting. Contribute early. When there is a pertinent topic being discussed and you have an opinion on that particular topic, speak it up, and speak it up early. Do not wait for the end of the meeting in which everything is probably been done and dusted, and then you decide, oh, you know what, I need to say that this particular opinion of mine. Contribute early. And while you are contributing, engage the other person, engage the person who's listening to you, engage who also has a counter opinion, because there are going to be all kinds of opinions in a meeting. It's okay. All opinions are valid and are welcome, but engage with them in a healthy conversation. And most importantly, at least I feel, and many people do this mistake, you don't have to apologize for your opinion. An opinion, when expressed respectfully, when expressed with the conviction of your beliefs, it's not wrong. It's an opinion. So you don't have to apologize for it. Do not apologize. But there are a few things that you should definitely avoid. And you will avoid it if you come prepared. You will avoid voice fillers. You will avoid all these, you know, I know. These are fillers. Avoid these fillers as much as possible. Yeah, these are the things that you would, see, this is how a filler is. These are the things which annoy others. These are the things which annoy or eat up meeting time. So avoid filler words, and also be very cognizant that you don't upspeak. Upspeak basically means that just because someone else has a differing opinion, or just because someone else is of a differing position in the corporate ladder, his or her opinion is not important enough. Make sure that everybody's opinion is counted in a meeting. And you could be leading the meeting, or you could just be another colleague in the meeting. But either way, make sure that you have these points in your sight. I cannot harp enough about speaking up at work. And by speaking up, I don't mean just making a lot of noise and talking general, things that are irrelevant to the conversation, or just in general talking a lot. That's not speaking up. Speaking up is contributing with value. And it's important for you to speak up at work. You can be the most efficient worker. You can be great at, let's say you're a developer, you can be great at coding. Let's say you are a business analyst, you can be great at your job. You can be the most efficient worker. But if you're one of those who tend to, kind of withdraw into a corner, you will sit there, you will wish that nobody is even noticing you. Well, then that's what will happen. No one will ever notice you. Remember, we are not in physical environments anymore. You folks are all probably going to go into workplaces which are having hybrid models of working. Some of you will be in an office, maybe. Some of you will be in disparate, they could be working in their homes, they could be working in towns far off, they could be working behind a computer, behind a video screen. People have their videos on, people don't have their videos on. So how are you going to make sure that you are going to be noticed? You are going to be noticed only if you say something, right? So you have to speak up. And by speaking up, again, mind you, speaking up is just not making a noise. Speaking up is contributing with something of value. We'll talk a little more going forward in the presentation about value, but I would love for you to remember that when you contribute, you become essential to the organization. I know this image is a little different here on the screen from the rest of the presentation slides, but I really wanted to make this point. Do you know what's a linchpin? Not sure if many of you know, because it's a little bit of a, clearly is a very old fashioned means of transportation, but a linchpin is that little pin that you see at the center of the wheel there. That's that pin that holds the whole wheel together. That's the pin that actually holds the entire vehicle together. You need to make yourself and position yourself in your workplace as that linchpin of your team. What's your value to the team? Are you able to hold that team together? Are you able to bring something to the table which is important for the team to move forward? Just like a wheel, you know, a wheel rolls and it's rolling because of that linchpin there. So that is what I'm asking for when I say that as you bring value to your workplace, try to see if you can be a linchpin in your workplace. Yeah. Of course, workplaces in today's times are cross-cultural. They have all kinds of ethnicities. They have all kinds of geographies. They have all kinds of people with different cultural backgrounds. Now, how are you going to transcend these cultural backgrounds? How are you going to be able to coordinate, be able to collaborate with people from different backgrounds? The important thing to remember is it will impact the kind of solutions that your team will come up with. If everyone were of the same kind in a team, you would have only one kind of solution coming out when the team sits down to brainstorm. But if today's teams are made of different kinds of people, organizations are actively hiring diverse candidates. They are actively hiring candidates from different cross-cultural backgrounds, with people with different mindsets, people who can bring a whole different perspective of looking at things. When you have a cross-cultural team like that, clearly when you sit together to solve problems and come up with solutions, you are going to see a change in the kind of solution that you come up with. So be cognizant of it. And the only way that you can actually, transcend these cultural barriers is by collaborating. And I wouldn't call them barriers. I think that was the wrong term to use. These cultural differences is by collaborating. One, be completely aware of the fact that there are different people in the world. Identify those differences, and those are what we call as cognitive methods to actually solve these cultural differences. Identify the fact that, X is of this mindset, Y has a better talent in such and such a thing, Z comes from this kind of a cultural background. Identify those differences, be aware, be cognitive of those differences. Second, be motivational. If you are a leader of your team, if you're going in as a leader or a manager, be motivational. Try to push them, to keep pushing them to come together and somehow transcend these differences. And importantly, adapt yourself. You cannot afford to be rigid to this is my culture or this is the way I work. That doesn't work in the present generation. That doesn't work in today's workplaces. You will have to bring about behavioral changes so that you can get your team to produce results. This entire thing is what we call cultural intelligence, and I think the intention of everybody, the objective of everybody is to be developing that cultural intelligence. I think I skipped a slide. No, I'm good. We'll quickly come to the next point that I'm trying to talk about, and I'm talking about networking in workplaces. What comes to your mind when you hear the word networking? I mean, you must have heard it often. Go network. go network and build your network. What does it mean when you actually hear the word networking? Any thoughts in the chat? I'm not able to see the chat, so you'll have to read out to me.
Nothing yet. Students, okay. Connecting, communicating, socializing.
Awesome. Socializing. Yeah. Okay. I think it's time for me to bust a few myths about networking. Okay.
Creating relationships which will be helpful, collaborating.
Yes.
Personal
yes.
connect.
Wonderful. These are
create
good
a
thoughts.
team.
These are good thoughts. Yes. Yes. Networking is often confused as small talk. You know, you go to the water cooler and you talk about, he said that, she said this, you know what happened here. You have that kind of conversation. Networking is often also confused as, oh, you know what, networking means I have to take so and so out to dinner, or I have to take a person out to for a drink, or we have to go out for lunch. Well, I'm not saying those are not. Yes, you could include that in your networking, but that's not the true meaning of networking. Networking, especially is in the workplace, is about bringing value to a relationship. Let's say when I say that you go ahead and network with that particular team, it could be a person or it could be a team. Basically, what I mean is about ensuring that you build a relationship with that person or with that team, and also make sure you are contributing something of value to that person or to that team. That is what is networking. And I would probably, bring a couple of things. Networking is often, there's this. I think everybody has heard of Jack Canfield. He's a very well-known motivational speaker, leadership coach, executive coach. He had brought about 3 concepts of networking. Networking is about visibility, credibility, and profitability. Visibility is when you first go and make yourself visible to that person, whoever you're networking with, person or team. I'm using those two interchangeability. You make yourself visible to that person, so the person realizes that you are there, you exist, you do so and so, your name is so and so, this is your role in the organization. That's visibility. Credibility comes after certain more instances of networking. You've met that person for a couple of times, you've had a few conversations with that person, you have been able to speak a little bit about some collaborative projects that you are doing. That is when the person begins to understand that, oh, this so and so, let's say, let's assume I'm networking Mumukshu, she does this, her role in the organization is this, and yeah, she's a fairly credible worker because she has done this for me. These are the points in which she has helped me. That is credibility. And the third stage of networking is when you actually see some benefit from the relationship. That's profitability. I don't mean profitability in very crude terms, but profitability in terms of being mutually beneficial to each other. So visibility, credibility, and profitability, those are literally like the phases of networking. And if you are wondering whether you should take someone to drinks or dinner, yeah, go ahead and do that, but make sure you're bringing some value to the professional relationship when you're trying to network. And mind you, networking never stops. There is no no model in which you just go say hi, hello to that person. You have probably helped to that person, and that's it. You let the relationship just wither away like that. It's going to fade. Networking never stops. When you are in an organization, you're constantly networking. It might be because organizations, of course, change. You're going to have constantly a lot of other people coming into the organization. New talent comes in, and there is always something you can learn from that new talent. So you're never really going to stop networking, actually. I think all of this also kind of brings us to a situation in which we want to know who do you communicate with and how? to whom, especially given the fact that there is such an influx of talent coming in from various backgrounds. And that's why I wanted to bring in this little bit into the webinar today about mindful communication and about inclusive communication. It might seem a little odd, where has mindfulness suddenly come into a conversation on interpersonal skills at the workplace? But believe me, organizations, especially in this post-pandemic era, are spending a lot of time, effort, and a lot of dollars also in ensuring that the mental health and the mindfulness of their employees is taken care of. We all know, you also have experienced the pandemic has been kind of fairly brutal on all of us. On the screen, you will see some of the stats that I have actually gathered from some places about how the pandemic has affected people in current workplaces, how their mental health has been affected, and the fact that because of this stress of the pandemic, there is a lot of emotional dissonance at work. There's a lot of emotional conflict at work. Now, I'm sure I'll get the question, what on earth is emotional dissonance? Emotional dissonance basically means when you are feeling a particular way, but what you are portraying in the workplace is a different way. Let's say my day has started bad, okay? I have woken up, we are all virtual, I'm still working from home. I've had a serious crisis at home, let's say. It can be something as trivial as the milkman did not come, to something burned down in the kitchen, to my child fell sick. It can be anything. So I'm having a serious crisis. My work day started, but let's say my internet went for a toss, and I'm not able to sign into the most important meeting that I'm supposed to be signing in for today. So I'm feeling lousy. But when the meeting eventually starts, we are talking about some big win that the company has done or the team has done, and I'm supposed to feel great. I'm the manager. I should be looking probably very happy, and I should be clapping with everybody and telling them what an awesome job we have done. That's the conflict between my private self and my public self. And when emotions clash in the workplace, it impacts the productivity of the person. It impacts the productivity of the person. It impacts the productivity of the team. And never in our entire work, I would say work environments or in our workplaces, have we felt emotional dissonance to the extent as we are seeing today because of the pandemic. The pandemic has not only stressed out a lot of people being cooped up in houses or dealing with the stress of family members who are not well, or even losing family members. Imagine the stress of that person, and yet the person is required to come up in the workplace and present a very positive front. That's emotional dissonance. And emotional dissonance is going to hit all of us, all of you who are headed into the workplace. What I'm asking for is for you to be cognizant of this emotional dissonance. Be aware that, a person who is probably showing bright and cheerful may be having something troublesome going on, or a person who is not able to express the fact that there is a crisis at home. Be kind, be aware, and be as collaborative as possible, because the current situation in which some people are at office, some people are at home, some people may come back to office, may not come back to office, it will be very difficult for teams to work together if they don't understand, and if they don't, they are not able to understand the emotions of the other person, if they are not cognizant of those emotions. And the other thing I want to talk about, which is very typical of today's workplace, is the fact that we are talking a lot about inclusive workplaces. We are beginning to see diversity in the workplace. We are beginning to see people from different cultures, backgrounds. We are beginning to see organizations having a specific agenda to bring in diverse backgrounds. They have increased the percentage of gender diversity that they want to have in the organization. They have increased the percentage of LGBTQ plus people whom they want in the organization. It seems like it's an agenda, but the truth is you need that affirmative action. If we do not have that affirmative action, we are not going to be able to bridge that gap that has already formed. And the only way you can actually be participative in this organization culture that is coming about in the new workplaces is for you to educate yourself on this. Educate yourself on what it means to be diverse. Educate yourself on what is inclusivity. How can you make a person feel more inclusive? Educate yourself on the entire LGBTQ spectrum. Find out how does a person prefer to be addressed. Find out how a person prefers to be treated. Be an ally, be supportive. If they are of a particular background, if they come from maybe a background which does not have as much privilege as you, try to be collaborative. Find out what can help them achieve their goals in the workplace. This is all the stepping stones for a collaborative workplace, and it will only help you to be seen in the right light if you understand what is inclusivity. So inclusive workplaces, very important. Educate yourself. And just winding up, like kind of making a quick summary of some of the I call it work from home 101s, but these are just some very tactical tips and tricks for you to adopt when you are in your workplaces. Remember, we are in digital workplaces. So you have to be adapting every now and then. And organizations are looking for people who are adept at adaptation. They want agility. They want you to be able to be agile in the way you present your thoughts, in the way you actually execute on your thoughts, in the way you are also able to listen to other people give your thought or give their thoughts. And digital workplaces are non-linear. They are not just going in one particular chronological sequence. Now, digital workplaces are faster, and because they are faster, there are so many tangents of work that you will probably be looking at, so many tangents around which you will be required to communicate on. Ensure that you are able to keep up to speed to these digital workplaces. Here's a very important one, and I don't know how many times I have tried to tell this to people, but be visible. The new workplace is so hybrid, it requires you to make the effort to be extra visible. But don't worry, it's not like you are like wondering, oh, what do I do now? How do I be visible? There are plenty of tools and technologies. You can be sitting in the furthest corner of the country, but you have the tools and the technologies for yourself to be visible, to be connected to your teams, to be visible to your managers, to your clients, your partners, your stakeholders. There is tools, there is technology. All you need to do is know how to leverage the tools. And I know the second point on this slide might look very basic to you, but show up. Show up on video. Show up where people can see you. One of the things that I don't know, I don't know if it's a new gen thing, but I have seen many people prefer not to keep their camera on, or prefer to hide behind a screen, to try to be, not so visible in front. Show up on video. It just helps, because eye contact makes a person actually register the fact that so and so is there. You know that popular adage, out of sight, out of mind. Trust me, it's true. And the most important thing to be visible is to keep your team, your managers, your stakeholders, everybody informed. Keep them informed. It can be through email, it can be through phone, it can be through WhatsApp messages, it can be through any tool that you prefer in the first point, but keep them informed. Don't forget to say, don't think that, oh, you know what, I'll inform them tomorrow. No, you will forget. So inform them. If you have achieved something, inform them. If your project has run into some kind of a clash or some kind of a crisis, inform all your stakeholders. Make sure you inform. So keep them informed. And here are a few tips and tricks for email. Email is one of the, like it or not, email is one of the, it still continues to be the most method of communication in all organizations. Organizations are beginning to adopt other methods, like there are all these tools like Slack, and there are tools like video conferencing tools, everything. But at the end of it all, you still have to resort to email. So you've got to get your email game spot on. Always remember, these are some golden rules to email, but pay attention to what you're writing. Make sure your spellings are correct. Email is on the record. Don't assume that, yeah, oh, you know what, I can say anything to this person. I can probably, curse this person or abuse this person on email, and it's only going to one person. Nobody else will see it. No, email is on the record. Remember, it is never really off the record. And some rules to what you should avoid. These are 3 of my favorite rules. Do not email when you're angry, because you will end up sitting and cursing someone on email. Do not email in the middle of the night. That is the worst time when you can actually disturb somebody else with email. And emails with any form of inappropriate content, do not. And that's like a basic rule for, because email is on the record. You may think it is a joke, you may think that image is funny, but it's not how it might be received by the person who's seeing the email. So never avoid email, avoid inappropriate content in an email. Simple rule of thumb: if you are in doubt, anytime you're in doubt, keep your email formal. If you, of course, want to give a little special pizzazz of your own, or have your own little style to the email, fine, go ahead and make the email a little fun. But when in doubt, keep it formal. And of course, use social media. I don't have to, say no to younger generation of people. You all are pros at social media, but yes, absolutely use social media to convey your thoughts, to demonstrate what you're good at. Use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one of the most used tools for young workforce professionals now, to demonstrate their strengths, to showcase their areas of interest. So use social media tools. And as a final, how you want to show up in the new work from home culture, find a mentor. I know this point actually deserves a whole session on its own, because mentorship and talking about mentors is a long conversation. But find someone in the workplace who will coach you, who will help you rise above your position, who will always be a champion for your work. So find that one mentor. I'm going to pause now here, and I'm going to be happy to take questions. I think we have kept about 15 minutes for questions, or it's about 12 minutes, right? So happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mumukshu, for being so candid about what is expected and what are the things that actually matter at the workplace today. Domain-specific skills are obviously important, but I think when it comes to selecting a candidate, the differentiating and deciding factor between great talent would be their interpersonal communication. Students, I could tell you were all listening with rapt attention today. I haven't seen this kind of attention before, the kind of questions you're getting, the kind of interaction, participation that we've seen today. Mumukshu has given some fantastic insights into how things are in the real world and what you can do today instead of waiting to be in that situation when you start to work. So have your elevator pitch ready, have that clarity, and remember all these tips that Mumukshu has taken you through. I'll read out some questions, Mumukshu. We've received a few.
Mm-hmm.
How do we develop a personality through communication?
What a wonderful question. I'm assuming when you say how do we develop a personality through communication, is you want to reflect a particular facet of your personality which is appropriate for a workplace or which is conducive to your career. That is how I'm reading the question. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I think one of the best lessons that or not a lesson, but one of the best tips I can give you is uh, be very clear what is the personality you want to showcase. All of us are well-rounded personalities, so I encourage people to have different facets of their personality. You have a facet which is artistic or creative and loves probably golfing, but at the workplace, let's say you are a product manager, or let's say you are a marketer, or you are a techie, and that probably doesn't help you to do too much of golfing in the workplace. But in the workplace, you want to convey or portray yourself as, let's say, as a creative person. Okay, so identify that personality trait that you want to showcase at the workplace, and the best way to develop that personality trait, I hope many of you millennials will not hate me for saying it, but read more, learn more about that trait that you want to develop, or that particular image. Learn from mentors, learn from leaders, learn from people who are experts in that field. And the only way you can learn is by reading. Of course, watch the videos if you wish to on those topics, but basically, I mean, learn more. When you constantly learn and read on that particular area, you will start actually imbibing some of those traits, and that's how you will develop that personality.
Thank you. There's one other question on creating positive confidence in myself. How does one develop that? Is there a conscious way to build that?
Preparation. There is no shortcut to success. Only hard work. Prepare. Preparation is more than half the battle done. Preparation is the biggest battle you will be actually fighting, because once you are prepared, your personality will start, you will be more positive. You will reflect the kind of confidence that you have earned after when you are preparing. So seriously, for positive confidence in your personality or the way you project it at the workplace, preparation is the only key. There is no shortcut to it. You're born with a particular kind of personality, yes, but it's all in your hands to be able to hone it to the way you want to project at the workplace.
Santosh's question: if somebody is an introvert, how do we get rid of the shyness while speaking?
So first off, Santosh, there's no harm in being an introvert. Yes, in today's world, everybody brings some kind of value to the table. I think workplaces are also beginning to accept it and recognize it. And now, please don't confuse your introvertness to not bringing a value to the table. You are introvert. Yes, you probably like to be on your own. Your personality doesn't like to go out and party every now and then, or does not feel very comfortable in a huge group setting of some 20-30 people in which everybody is laughing loudly. Fine, that's all right, and it's absolutely okay to be an introvert. But the way you get over that shyness is by having something valuable to say when there is a relevant situation. And again, I'll go back to that previous question: how will you come up with something valuable to say if you're not prepared? So introvert, extrovert doesn't matter. You need to bring value to the table, and you can bring value to the table if you know your job. You can bring value to the table if you know what you're talking about. If you have the conviction of the kind of work you are doing, prepare and come prepared to the table.
Very important question Midge is asking. How do we include mindful communication as part of our normal lives? An example would help.
This is really a nice question. Yes. When I was talking about mindfulness, I actually came from the place where we, especially over the last 2 years in organizations where I have been very, very cognizant of the kind of emotional stress that people are going through. I actually happened to also take a small course on in my previous organization on mental well-being, and got trained by an external body also on how to handle mental well-being at the workplace, how to be a mental well-being ambassador for the organization with the people who are stressed. within because of the pandemic situation. One example that I can give, and I'm not sure if it will hit home or if you will find it relevant, is and without taking any names or being very specific because it's a matter of confidentiality. There was a colleague who was performing really badly. The performance was beginning to dip, and we were beginning to see there were many reasons that people thought they figured could be the reason why that person's performance is dipping. It was only after, and there were reasons like, oh, you know what, he or she is not listening to the client, he or she is not taking the brief correctly, he or she has decided that working from home means working at his or her own hours and it's not sticking to the core business hours. There were all these reasons that were coming up. But after a little digging, I figured out something, and it just came out because when you sit and listen to a colleague very carefully and actually listen, like actively listening in which I'm not doing the speaking, but that person is doing the speaking, they do blurt out, or they do reveal what is going on with them. And it turned out that the colleague was depressed. It was clinical depression. It's not, but once I understood that, yes, there is a problem, there's a clinical depression problem over here, it was only a matter of finding the right solution. We actually enlisted the help of our own organizational HR. We enlisted help to make sure that the colleague gets the kind of counseling and the kind of medical clinical help, that professional help that is available. And I can't comment on what has been the progress with the colleague, but at least from our end, from my end, the idea was, the achievement was in figuring out that this person was under emotional crisis, and also after that being able to see his non-performance as a resultant of that crisis. Once the person gets help, I think his or her performance is definitely going to improve. I hope I answered the question. I mean, I tried to give an example.
Yes, and I think, Midge, the fact that you've actually thought about this, you've already taken the first step. So you need to consciously make an effort before it becomes a habit, and then it'll come naturally to you. Just be conscious about people around you.
Yes, be mindful. That's where the whole mindfulness and mindfulness is coming in. Be mindful. Keep an ear open to what's that person saying. How's the person looking? Is the person looking more tired than yesterday? Is the person looking different? Is a person having mood swings? Be mindful.
This is not, I don't know if you can help here. Is it okay to step forward while you're not perfectly ready to apply for a job one wants? I think that goes back to your pitch slide.
So step forward when you're not ready, in the sense that go for an interview or something when you're not ready?
Nisha, is that what you mean?
I think that's what.
Yes.
Well, yeah. See, it depends again. I mean, if you were to personally ask my opinion, I would say yes. It's okay to go for an interview, because otherwise, if you don't go, even whether you're ready or not ready, that perfect readiness never really happens. Okay. And the second is, if you don't fail, you're not going to learn. So I'm of the school of thought which believes, give it your best, try, fail until you succeed. So I think, yes, go for your interview, see how good or how bad you are, and then sit down, work harder, and then go back.
Dhriti's question is, how can we learn from our mentors? Should we ask them questions, or is there any other approach?
There are plenty of approaches to mentorship, as many approaches as there are people in the world. You can set your own formats with your mentor, in mutual agreement with your mentor. You don't necessarily have to follow a format which is picked up from a textbook. These are a mentor-mentee relationship is something really, something in which both sides have to agree on the best possible communication method, on the best possible platform in which they are going. So you don't have to just, it's not like you come to a meeting and you sit in front of the mentor and ask the mentor, okay, tell me about this, or tell me about that. Or it's not like, you come to a meeting and the mentor asks you, tell me what did you do today, or what have you done in your last 6 months of your career. It's not like that. You can decide what works. Some mentor-mentee relationships are based on just sharing stories, just sharing. They don't have to have a slide deck open in front of them in which the mentor is talking to the mentee or teaching them from a slide deck. No, it can be just sharing. Some mentor-mentee relationships are over a long period of time, and I actually encourage those relationships in which you are your whole career journey, in which you can be associated with a particular mentor. You share your successes, you learn a little bit. At some points the mentor stands up for you, champions you, gives a reference on your behalf, all of this. So the short answer to that is there's no set format. Choose what works for you.
Thank you. One other question. What is the best way to address your colleagues? So they haven't yet started. When we all start, I think we all are in two minds. They're older. Do we say Mr., Mrs.? Do we just use first name? Do we say contact the GM? So what is the way to address your colleagues?
I think the most friendliest way would be hi with a first name. That's how it mostly works in most corporate and MNC organizations where I've been. But frankly, if you are joining an organization which is slightly more conservative, it might be a good idea for you to first check on how people prefer to be addressed there. And then address, because it's possible there are workplaces where a superior prefers to be addressed as sir or a madam, and does not want you to say hi Santosh. That superior probably prefers to be addressed as Santosh sir. But those are very few workplaces, I believe, in today's day and age. I think most prefer a very simple, informal way, but don't get overtly casual. I'll go back to that slide on the email. When in doubt, stay formal. I would still say, even in your forms of address, don't get overtly casual. There have been instances in which somebody, this is a great point to make. This is a great point to make this topic. Sometimes out of the blue, and we are in hybrid workplaces, so we are working in these environments where a lot of the communication is over a messenger, an internal messenger, or on a chat messenger somewhere. And then out of the blue, someone will ping you and say, hey. And I find it mildly off-putting. You don't know me, I don't know you, we are getting introduced for the first time, and you call out to me like, hey, as if you're calling out to me across a college campus. That doesn't cut it in the workplace. So be respectful, whatever their stature on the corporate hierarchy. Be respectful, be formal, and a simple hi Mumukshu will be fine, or hello Mumukshu will be fine, or even a good morning Mumukshu will be fine.
I think that's all we have time for today. I'm not going to say anything to thank you more, Mumukshu. One of our students has already written in saying, really thankful, really great session, learned some basic but very valuable points which are useful to us while working in the corporate environment and surrounding different people who have different mindsets. Thank you again for such a great session.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and to all the 200 odd participants on this call. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Students, a recorded version of this webinar will be available on the Online Manipal Facebook page. Before you leave, please remember to take the feedback by filling out the survey as you exit the session, and do follow Online Manipal on social media to stay updated on our programs and industry expert sessions. Thank you again for participating in today's session. Have a good evening.
Thank you.